back to the channel. Today we're going to unravel some incredibly complex events in Genoa. Rumors are circulating around the Newman family, but what's the truth? In this video, I'll summarize the plot points that will be revealed in the next episode. Stay tuned to see what happens. Patty Williams is reaching the point where desperation no longer feels like a choice, but a survival instinct. Everything around Jack Abbott's attack has begun to tighten like a noose, and the closer the truth comes to the surface, the more dangerous Patty becomes. For Diane Jenkins, that danger has already changed the course of her life. She is not only fighting suspicion, shame, and public judgment, but also the terrifying possibility that the system may condemn her for a crime she did not commit. At the center of that storm stands Michael Baldwin, determined to prove that Diane is being framed before the case hardens into something irreversible. Michael understands that Diane's freedom is fragile. Getting her released on bail may have been a victory, but it is only the beginning of a much more difficult battle. The accusations against her still hang over every room she enters and every conversation she has. To the outside world, Diane remains the woman standing closest to Jack's tragedy. Her history, her emotional ties, and the chaos surrounding the attack all make her an easy target. But Michael sees the gaps. He sees how conveniently the evidence points toward her. He sees how quickly the narrative has been shaped against her. Most importantly, he sees what Christine seems unwilling to admit. Diane may not be the villain in this story. She may be the shield Patty is hiding behind. That is why Michael pushes Christine harder than ever. He does not approach her as someone begging for mercy. He confronts her as someone demanding fairness. Christine may be the district attorney, but Michael refuses to let her confuse certainty with justice. He knows that her case against Diane depends on evidence that looks convincing only when no one asks the harder questions. Why would Diane risk everything in such a reckless way? Why would the pieces fit so perfectly around her when so many emotions, motives, and hidden movements remain unexamined? Michael forces Christine to look beyond the obvious, because the obvious may be exactly what Patty wants everyone to see. Christine, however, is not ready to back down. Her position becomes harder with every challenge Michael throws at her. She insists that she must follow the evidence, and on the surface, that sounds like duty. But beneath that duty is pride, pressure, and the fear of appearing weak in a case that has already drawn too much attention. Jack Abbott is not just any victim. Diane is not just any suspect. This is the kind of case that can define reputations, destroy careers, and expose every flaw in the justice system. Christine's determination begins to look less like discipline and more like refusal. She does not want to admit that she may be building a case on the wrong foundation. Michael sees that clearly. He understands how dangerous it is when a prosecutor becomes more invested in proving a theory than uncovering the truth. Every time Christine holds firm on the attempted murder charges against Diane, Michael becomes more convinced that she is walking straight into Patty's trap. The tragedy is that Christine may believe she is protecting Jack, honoring the law, and standing for justice. But if she ignores what Patty has done, she may become the very person who helps bury the truth. For Diane, the waiting is almost unbearable. Bail gives her room to breathe, but not peace. She is free enough to move, yet still trapped under suspicion. She knows that as long as Jack remains unable to speak clearly about what happened, her name remains tied to the attack. Every moment of silence from Jack becomes another weapon used against her. Diane's hope rests on his recovery, not only because she cares about him, but because he may be the only person who can tear down the lie that has been built around her. If Jack wakes and remembers the truth, everything could change. The charges could collapse. Patty could be exposed. Diane could finally begin to fight with more than fear and denial. But that same hope is exactly what Patty cannot allow. Patty knows that Jack's survival is a threat. As long as he is alive, the truth has a pulse. Even if he is weak, even if his memory is fractured, even if his body is trapped in a hospital bed, Jack remains the one person who can destroy her fragile protection. Diane may be the one facing charges, but Patty is the one living under the pressure of exposure. She knows what she has done. She knows the attack on Jack was not supposed to become a road back to her. She also knows that if Jack speaks, everything she has tried to control will collapse at once. That is why Patty's next move becomes so chilling. She does not wait for the law to catch up. She does not trust chance, recovery, or silence. Instead, she decides to force silence herself. Her desperation turns calculated, and the hospital becomes more than a place of healing. It becomes the stage for her next attempt to protect herself from the truth. Jack lies vulnerable, surrounded by machines, medicine, and the fragile illusion of safety. To everyone else, he is a patient fighting his way back. To Patty, he is a witness who must be stopped. The horror of Patty's position is not only in what she might do, but in how completely she has convinced herself that she must do it. Her fear has swallowed whatever remains of restraint. She may tell herself that Jack's silence is necessary, that Diane's suffering is an acceptable price, that everything can still be controlled if she acts quickly enough. But beneath those excuses is the truth she cannot face. Patty is not protecting herself from danger. She is creating more of it. Every choice she makes pulls her deeper into the same darkness she is trying to escape. Jack's condition makes the tension even more unbearable. If he remains unconscious or slips further into danger, Patty gains time. If he wakes even briefly, the entire case could shift. That uncertainty turns every breath Jack takes into suspense. He is no longer only a victim recovering from an attack. He has become the key to Diane's freedom, Michael's defense, Christine's credibility, and Patty's downfall. His silence is the center of the storm. Patty may try to exploit that silence by triggering a serious medical crisis. If Jack's condition worsens, if he falls into a deeper coma, if his body is pushed beyond what it can endure, then she can make the truth disappear without having to face him directly. In her mind, that may seem like the cleanest way to protect herself. Jack unable to speak means Diane remains under suspicion. Jack unable to remember means Michael has less ground to stand on. Jack unable to accuse means Patty can keep hiding in the shadow of Diane's ruined reputation. Yet there is another possibility that may be even more terrifying. Jack could wake. He could open his eyes, weak and disoriented, only to realize that the threat has followed him into his hospital room. Patty could confront him not with guilt, but with a warning. She could make it clear that if he exposes her, the people he loves will suffer. For Jack, that would be a brutal kind of prison. His body may already be trapped in a bed, but Patty could try to trap his voice as well. She could force him into a silence built not from confusion, but from fear. That kind of silence would cut deeper than unconsciousness. Jack Abbott is not a man who easily accepts helplessness. Even wounded, even weakened, he would understand the stakes. Speaking too soon could put his family at risk. Staying quiet could leave Diane fighting a nightmare alone. Every option would carry a cost. His mind would have to move faster than his body can. He would have to decide whether silence is cowardice, strategy, or the only way to survive long enough to stop Patty for good. This is where the emotional weight of the story becomes strongest. Jack's struggle is not only physical, it is moral. He may know the truth before he has the strength to reveal it. He may have to watch Diane suffer under suspicion while he waits for the right moment. He may have to endure Patty's presence, her threats, and the knowledge that she is still capable of causing harm. His silence, if he chooses it, would not come from weakness. It would come from calculation, but that does not make it painless. Diane's pain runs parallel to his. She believes Jack's awakening could save her, but she has no control over when or how that happens. She must trust Michael, trust the process, and trust that the truth will eventually matter more than appearances. But trust is difficult when every hour seems to deepen the case against her. The fact that Patty is moving freely while Diane is the one defending herself adds another layer of cruelty. Diane is being punished by suspicion while the real danger remains close enough to strike again. Michael's fight becomes more urgent because of that imbalance. He cannot wait for Christine to slowly reconsider. He cannot rely only on Jack's recovery. He has to keep pushing, keep questioning, and keep exposing the weakness in the prosecution's theory. His motivation is not only professional, it becomes personal because he sees how easily a person can be buried under a story that powerful people choose to believe. Diane may not be innocent in every part of her past, but Michael knows that past mistakes do not make her guilty of this crime. That distinction matters, and he will not let Christine erase it. Christine's conflict is more complicated than simple stubbornness. She may genuinely believe she is doing what the evidence demands. She may fear that doubting the case too early will make her appear irresponsible. But the more Michael challenges her, the more she must confront the uncomfortable possibility that her case is not as strong as she wants it to be. If Diane is being framed, then every step Christine takes against her becomes part of Patty's cover. That realization would be humiliating, but refusing to face it could be far worse. Meanwhile, Patty and Dr. Lawrence Markham remain bound by the terrible logic of their own actions. For them, Jack's death would solve the immediate problem. A dead Jack cannot identify the attacker, cannot clear Diane, and cannot expose what really happened. But even that solution is not truly safe. Death would bring more scrutiny, more questions, more pressure. Patty may believe eliminating Jack would end the danger, but it could also create the very investigation that destroys her. Still, fear rarely thinks that far ahead. Fear sees only the next threat, and for Patty, that threat is Jack breathing in a hospital bed. The hospital setting intensifies everything because it should be the safest place for Jack. The machines, the monitors, the staff, and the quiet routine of care all create an atmosphere of protection. But beneath that surface, danger moves in plain sight. Patty can disguise her intentions behind medical gestures. A syringe, a medication, a moment alone beside the bed can become a weapon without anyone realizing until it is too late. That is what makes her so dangerous now. She does not need chaos. She needs only seconds. Ashley's accidental discovery would become a moment of pure dread. She opens the door expecting a hospital room, a vulnerable Jack, maybe another painful update in a family crisis. Instead, she sees Patty too close, too focused, too prepared. The shock hits before the meaning fully forms. Her horror is not only fear for Jack's life, but the sudden understanding that Diane may have been telling the truth all along. In that instant, everything Michael has argued, everything Diane has hoped, and everything Christine has resisted could begin to collide. For Patty, being caught would be catastrophic. Her control depends on secrecy, and Ashley's presence shatters it. Even if Patty tries to explain the image is too damning, Jack helpless in bed, Patty beside him, a syringe in her hand, Ashley at the door, witnessing the one thing Patty could not afford anyone to see. The room becomes a trap, not just for Jack, but for Patty herself. Yet a trapped Patty may be the most dangerous version of all. If she believes she is cornered, she may become unpredictable. That is the true danger moving into the next turn of the story. Patty does not have the luxury of patience anymore. Michael is pressuring Christine. Diane is free enough to fight. Jack may be closer to waking than anyone realizes. Ashley may have stumbled onto the truth at the worst possible moment. Every path Patty hoped to control is narrowing, and every person she needs silenced is still capable of speaking. Jack will survive this chapter, but survival does not mean safety. His life may continue, yet the war over his voice is only beginning. Diane's future depends on whether the truth can break through before the system destroys her. Michael's defense depends on exposing the frame before Christine locks herself too deeply into the wrong case. Christine's reputation depends on whether she can admit the evidence may have been manipulated before her pursuit of Diane becomes unforgivable. And Patty's fate depends on whether she can escape one more time from the consequences of what she has done. In the end, the most frightening question is not whether Patty wants Jack silent. That answer is already clear. The real question is what she will do now that silence is slipping out of her control. Because if Ashley has truly seen enough to expose her, and if Jack is closer to waking than Patty realizes, then one scream from that hospital doorway may be all it takes to turn Patty's desperate secret into the beginning of her downfall.